In today's video, we are going to discuss the hurdle step test or the hurdle step screen from chapter 7. So we are gonna look what are the observations that you should be making on your client while making them do this screen, and which muscles are tight and which muscles are weak. We are gonna discuss all of these things in this video. So first I'm going to demonstrate how a hurdle step test looks like so that you will have a better idea, better picture, and then we'll move forward from there. Yeah, let's go guys. In this video I will be using a belt instead of a string because I could not get hold of a string, so I'll be using this belt in this video while demonstrating the hurdle step test. And one more thing is, what is the height at which you should be placing the string? It should be somewhere halfway your tibia. So this is what a tibia is, this part, so it should be somewhere halfway here. So I should be placing it somewhere halfway, midway. So that's how I'm gonna do with this. Okay, so imagine I have kept a string at halfway towards my tibia and I'm holding a dowel in my hand like back squat position, and then I'll be gently placing my heels in front of me like so. Yes, so make sure you're also doing dorsiflexion so that you can also test how much dorsiflexion you have, because if you don't do dorsiflexion you will end up touching the string. So your thumb should be directly under, your big toe should be directly under the string, so that when you lift it up you have to do a little bit of dorsiflexion in order to pass the hurdle test. So you have to do 10 repetitions to 12 repetitions on each leg, and on each repetition you will be observing something which I'll be talking next. Now in each repetition I am going to purposely show you the defect. I am going to do it in a wrong way and I'll be showing you defects in each of the repetition. So observe each repetition carefully. So I will be doing a maximum of 7 or 8, I think 9 repetitions in the frontal plane, and then maybe 2 repetitions on the sagittal plane, in the sagittal plane. So each repetition I will be showing you a defect and you have to find out what that defect is. Okay, so here are the things that you should be looking for. In the first repetition you should be looking at the stability of the feet, which is this. So in the video it will not be clear, so I am showing you right now. So you should look for supination. See, this is kind of like, this is foot supination. Then there is pronation. This is foot pronation, where the ankle is kind of going in like this. This is pronation. If it comes out fully like this, where the heels are raising up, then it is called eversion. Similarly, if the heel is raising fully and it's coming like this is called supination or inversion. Okay, so the stability of the feet is the first thing that you will be checking in the first repetition. So we are starting with the first repetition. Okay. So here you are going to observe the stability of the feet. Stability of the feet of the stance leg, the leg on which you are standing. See, supination, inversion, pronation, all these things you will be observing in the first repetition. Moving on, second repetition. What will you be observing in the second repetition? You will be looking at the knee. Is it moving away from the plane? See, this is knee valgus. Due to tight adductors and tensor fasciae latae, I am going into knee valgus as well as going the knee outside. Third repetition. In third repetition, you will be checking the hip adduction of the stance leg. Did you see how my stance leg got adducted to one side? It's also the tilting of the hip to the opposite direction. That is also same. See, that is adduction of the right leg. Fourth repetition. Fourth repetition is easy. You just have to look at the torso, the upper body. Is it leaning? Is it moving a lot? Forward, backward? This can be due to a weakness in the core. See, all these things you will be observing on the fourth repetition. Next, fifth repetition. In the fifth repetition, we are going to check the mobility of the ankle. See, if I lift like that, if I don't have dorsiflexion, enough dorsiflexion, then what will happen is I'll end up touching the string. While lifting, I'll end up touching the string. Getting it? So I'll be observing the dorsiflexion. That was 5th repetition. Now we'll be doing 6th repetition. Let's see what we are going to observe in the 6th repetition. See, my knee is deviating from the sagittal plane. It is going out. This is a tightness in the hip extensors. Now we'll check the 7th repetition. Let's see what you will be observing in the 7th repetition. So here hip tilting, hip hiking is happening. Did you see hip hiking? The hip of the moving leg raises up like so. It's raising up, that is hip hiking. You have to observe whether that is happening or not. Now sagittal plane, first repetition. In sagittal view, you're just checking the stability of the torso, the movement or instability of the knee. All these things you'll be checking in the first repetition. Moving on, second repetition in the sagittal view. So you'll be flexing your hips, right? Beyond 70 degree. You have to flex. While flexing, check for any compensation in the hip, like an anterior pelvic tilt. I'm exaggerating over here so that you'll understand. This is a posterior, anterior pelvic tilt. That's what you should be checking. Okay, now let's take a quick look at my notes. So this note I made after making that video that I just showed you. So it's completely based on the 7 observations that we made in the anterior view and 2 observations that we made in the sagittal view. So exactly based on the video that you just now saw, based on that I have made this note. So make sure each observations you need to watch again. If you have to watch again, watch again. So in the first observation, that is the first repetition that I did, what did we observe? We observed the feet, that is instability of the feet, right? The feet was moving, there was inversion, there was eversion and stuff like that. If that's the case, which muscles are tight and which muscles are weak, that's what we are gonna see here. Calf muscles, that is your soleus, that is the lower part of your calf muscles, and the gastrocnemius, which is the upper part of your calf muscles, they both are tight. In case of both eversion, pronation, supination, inversion, for all of those cases your calf muscles are tight. That's the reason there was an instability in the feet. Also your peroneal group of muscles are also tight. Now what muscles are weak? Sartorius, tibialis, gastrocnemius, medial part of your gastrocnemius. These muscles are tight. So generally for inversion, pronation and all of these things, we will have weakness in the posterior tibialis, and that's the reason we need to do a lot of strengthening exercises for this when you have someone with flat feet and stuff like that. So these muscles are generally weak. Next we saw the knees. Remember the knee valgus that I showed in the second repetition? So knee valgus is knee caving inside. So if the knees are moving in any plane, especially inwards if it is moving, then hip adductors are tight and tensor fascia latae is tight. Similarly, what is weak? Your glutes are weak, especially glute medius and glute maximus. For hip adduction, it's same. So it's easy for you to remember. For hip adduction also, your hip adductors are tight and your tensor fascia latae is tight. Tensor fascia latae generally helps you in internal rotation of the hip. So these two muscles are considered to be tight in case of hip adduction, which we saw in the third observation that we saw. And similarly, glutes are weak, medius and maximus. Now this is something that I didn't show in the video, which is rotation, which is also similar to hip adduction, but along with hip adduction there is a slight internal rotation of the hips. So you kind of rotate to that side. In that case, your hip internal rotators are tight and your hip external rotators are weak. Hip internal rotators, tensor fascia latae also comes under hip internal rotators, and hip external rotator is your piriformis muscle. So they are your external rotators, so they are weak. So you need to stretch this and you need to strengthen this. Next, fourth observation, remember I told you it's easy. You just have to look at the torso, that is the upper part of your body, how it is behaving. So what was happening? There was a lean, right? I was either leaning to the side or I was leaning forward and backward or slight rotation. So basically my upper body, that is my torso, was very unstable. If this is the case, it's very simple. It's due to a lack of core stability or core strength. Moving on. Fifth observation that we made is, so see, this entire notes that I made is from table 7.10, which is given in your chapter 7 of your hurdle step screen of your PT manual 5th edition. But I have made these notes based on the video that I just showed you, where we made a lot of observations. Remember, 5th repetition I want you to observe this, 6th repetition I want you to observe this, I told you, right? Based on that I made these notes. So they are similar to table 7.10, but I've slightly expanded it based on the video that I just made. So in the 5th repetition, what did we observe? The raised leg. So which leg was I using? I think I was using my left leg. So my left leg. So I'm talking about the raised leg, not the leg on which I'm standing, but the raised leg. So if the raised leg, remember I was telling you that if there isn't enough dorsiflexion, then I will end up touching the string. So if there is a lack of dorsiflexion, that means your dorsiflexors are weak and your ankle plantar flexors are tight. Plantar flexors is nothing but your calf muscles. So if there is a tightness in your calf muscles, it's very difficult to get dorsiflexion. Similarly, by the name itself, you can understand if there is a lack of dorsiflexion, then ankle dorsiflexors are weak. Then we saw the raised leg was deviating from the sagittal plane. Remember, I was kind of rotating my legs in order to take my leg to cross the string. So the raised leg was kind of deviating from the sagittal plane. If the way I showed you, remember the way I was, either the toes or the knees was kind of externally rotated when I was trying to lift my leg. So if that is the case, your raised leg, that is in this video I was showing my left leg. So the raised leg, hip extensors are tight. What are hip extensors? Glutes and hamstrings. Remember this, guys. This question, I think there was somewhere in the exam also. I don't remember the exam, but this question often gets asked. Like what are the hip extension? Hip extension is performed by which muscles? Your glutes are your primary hip extensor. For hip extension, the prime mover or the primary muscle are your glutes. And hamstrings also come under hip extensors. So your raised leg hip extensors are tight and your raised leg hip flexors are weak. So remember, they are kind of agonist and antagonist. If the glutes are going to be tight, then you can kind of assume that the flexors are going to be weak. Similarly, if the hip flexors are tight, then you should remember that the glutes are going to be weak. We saw that in anterior pelvic tilt also, right? The hip flexors were tight, so the glutes and the hamstrings were kind of lengthened. So it's the same concept. Hip extensors, remember, they are the glutes and the hamstrings. Hip flexors, you have the psoas major, iliopsoas, and even rectus femoris, that is your quads. They are all hip flexors. So the raised leg, we are all talking about raised leg on the 5th observation and the 6th observation. So the raised leg, hip flexors are weak. Moving on, the raised leg was hip hiking. Remember the 7th repetition that I showed you? In the 7th repetition, what did we observe? That while I was lifting my left leg was hiking. It was moving up. It was raising up, right? Now don't confuse this with hip hiking, which is a common defect that we see in some people. It is also considered, people also think that they have, limb length discrepancies. So that hip hiking is different. This is when you're raising that leg, the raised leg hip was moving upwards. So if that happens, what is tight? Stance leg hip flexor. So always if there's a hip hiking happening in your raised leg, you should focus on the opposite leg. So in this case, the stance leg, meaning the leg on which I was standing, on that leg the hip flexors are tight. What happens if the hip flexors are tight? Remember anterior pelvic tilt, I also made a video on that. In anterior pelvic tilt, the hip flexors were tight, right? So here in this, just try to imagine this. If the last leg on which I am standing, if that leg hip flexors are tight, then obviously it will kind of cause a little bit of anterior pelvic tilt, right? So it will be limiting posterior tilt during raise. Meaning the opposite leg, which is the left leg, which I am trying to raise, in order to flex your leg, your hip has to go in a slight posterior tilt. Without posterior tilt, it is very difficult to raise your hips. Now that posterior tilt is being limited because of the stance leg hip flexor tightness. Getting it? So the stance leg hip flexors are tight, which is limiting the posterior tilt of the raised leg when I'm trying to raise that leg. That's the reason it was going into a hiking position. Now what is weak is not given, guys. In the book also it was not given. So I'm assuming that if the hip flexors are tight, then the hip extensors are going to be weak. But I am not very sure about this. I'll have to do more research on that and then I'll get back to you on this. But just remember this, if there's a hip hiking of the raised leg, then the opposite leg, which is your stance leg, hip flexors are tight, which in turn is limiting the posterior tilt during the race. Finally, we saw the sagittal view. First repetition, we just checked the stability of the torso and the knee, which is similar to what we saw in anterior view, which is your frontal plane view. So in this, remember the second repetition where I was talking about the anterior tilt and the posterior tilt. This, you know guys, it is pretty similar to anterior pelvic tilt and the posterior pelvic tilt. That the video which I already did explaining which muscles are tight and which muscles are weak. If you haven't seen that video, go check that out. This will help you understand this better. So if I am doing the leg raise, if I'm trying to cross that string, right, I'm trying to cross that hurdle, and while doing that, if my hip goes into an anterior pelvic tilt, that means my stance leg hip flexors are tight. That's the reason I'm going into an anterior pelvic tilt. So, and if here we already know that in anterior pelvic tilt, if hip flexors are tight, what is weak? Rectus abdominis and the hip extensors. Hip extensors, again we saw, it is nothing but your glutes and your hamstrings. So in anterior pelvic tilt, we already saw that the rectus abdominis and the hamstrings were lengthened, while the erectus spinae and the hip flexors were shortened, right, tight. So it's pretty much the same thing is being discussed over here. Similarly, posterior pelvic tilt I didn't show. I didn't do the repetition showing the posterior tilt, but in posterior tilt you will have the rectus abdominis will be tight. It will be exactly the opposite, right? Rectus abdominis and hip extensors will be tight, while your stance leg hip flexors will be weak. So while if you have a posterior tilt, you'll also have a slight hunch on your upper back while doing that particular repetition. So that's pretty much it, guys. If you have any more doubts, just let me know. I'll try to come up with an answer. And you can also privately message me on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram at athlete.sanju, SANJU. Thank you guys. Thank you for watching. So you can take a screenshot if you want. Just give me a second. Let this become a little clear. It's taking some time to get. Hold on. Yes. Now you can go ahead and take a screenshot if you want to. Yeah, that's it.